everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to the alternate universe of the comic book vault. Today we're going to take a look at a Star Trek comic from 1997, put out by Marvel. This is a book called Fragile Glass. This is a one-shot, and it was written by none other than Tom DeFalco and drawn by Mark Bagley. What a powerhouse duo doing Star Trek. And I historically have not been a collector of Star Trek comics. Of course, I'm a big Star Trek collector, but I haven't cared for a lot of pre-IDW Star Trek comics. And in fact, even a lot of IDW Star Trek comics, to me, have been kind of hit and miss. They've put out a lot of really great stuff in the last couple of years. But anyway, I got this CD-ROM a few years back called Star Trek The Complete Comic Book Collection, and this is every single comic book of Star Trek put out from 1967 through October of 2002. And according to this, there weren't any comics at all between 2003 and 2006. I guess that's around when IDW got the license. Although I'd have to go back and see if it's actually true or not. But anyway, so this has everything. This has those early comics, then the DC and the Marvel stuff. It's got the Gold Key stuff, everything. So anyway, I thought this would be a really cool thing to get because I'm not usually a big digital comics guy. Of course, I prefer print. I prefer to have it in my hand. But like I said, I don't really collect Star Trek, and I find Star Trek often kind of hit and miss, and I find that a lot of people don't really know how to tell a good Star Trek story in panels. It doesn't seem to generally work real well that way, and a lot of the time seems to be kind of dull and overly wordy because it's not an especially visual kind of thing. It can be, but very often it's not written that way. And here comes Fragile Glass, the sequel to Mirror Mirror, which is my personal favorite original series Star Trek episode. It's an episode written by Jerome Bixby, who wrote 3 other original series episodes. I think he was one of TOS's best writers, and he was a magnificent science fiction writer. He did a lot of other stuff, and Bixby crafted this really fun and unusual Star Trek story where some of the crew of the Enterprise get trapped in an alternate dimension in a transporter accident. What this does is it takes Spock from the end of Mirror Mirror and continues his story on, and this entire one-shot takes place in the Mirror universe, and it's what Spock decides to do after his big conversation at the end of Mirror Mirror with Captain Kirk, where they're arguing about logic, and Spock previously thought that the way the Empire was conquering people and the way people had to move up in rank by killing each other on starships and things was actually illogical and was the best way for progress, and Kirk kind of proves him wrong, and he begins to realize just how corrupted the Empire is and how much it's falling apart, and he postulates here that it's going to be only 240 years before the Empire is completely taken over. And he wants to stop that. And so this is very much a character-driven story about Mirror Spock and his attempt to change what the Empire is through logic and through working within the confines of the rules that are already established in this, evil mirror universe. And it's like, how do you do that? And he goes back to the Halkins, who was that race at the beginning of Mirror Mirror, where Kirk was supposed to force them to hand over their dilithium crystals, and the Terran Empire in the Mirror universe has a customary phaser barrage. I just think a lot of that language is really funny. Where if a race doesn't submit to you automatically, you start just hitting them with phaser fire until they submit to you. And of course, in Mirror Mirror, our Kirk, having to pretend to be Mirror Kirk, suddenly finding himself in this universe, has to figure out how to not destroy this race while still not getting overthrown. And of course, Sulu and Chekhov both go up against him, and he has to deal with all this mutiny aboard his ship while still trying to convince everybody that he's Captain Kirk. So then we come here, and Spock has to kind of do the same thing. He's got to figure out how to get Starfleet and also the people on his ship to realize that there is a better way to get the dilithium crystals from the Halkins without just destroying them. And the reason he does this is because he thinks that if he can start this trend now, where there's more negotiation and less violence, maybe he can start turning the Terran Empire into something a little bit closer to the the benevolent federation that we have in our universe that he witnessed a little bit when he met our version of Kirk. And we know from Mirror Mirror that Spock was not interested in getting command. He didn't have those kind of ambitions. He just wanted to serve his empire, and he was doing it in the best capacity that he could as first officer and science officer on the Enterprise. But he wasn't interested in moving up any further than that. Here, he is forced to try to take command of the Enterprise and to move in an upward direction, and it kind of continues this idea that a whole lot of other things have done that I've always believed in, which is that a lot of the best leaders are people who didn't want to be leaders in the first place, people who didn't have so much of this grandiose personal ambition and vision of their own success as they realized that they just had the right that they just had the right mind for leadership, that they were good at it, and that whatever empire or government or organization that they're serving would be best benefited by them seeking that leadership. And so Spock here has to do that, and you get to see all of these, you get to see all of the characters from the original series. You know their mirror counterparts, each choosing sides, and you see what Sulu decides to do, and what Chekhov decides to do, and it's really fun to see everybody taking their sides. And of course, and I'll spoil this, so if you don't want to know anything else and you want to go try to find this, don't watch any of the rest of this video. But I will talk about the ending. Basically, at the end, Kirk finally gets out of the brig and has made some alliances, especially Sulu. Basically, Chekhov has sided with Spock because Spock tells him that after the fiasco in Mirror Mirror, where he attempted to assassinate Kirk, who was actually our Kirk at the time, and he got thrown in the agony booth, and he has been in the brig since then, he actually has the chance, by serving Spock, to not only get back his position on the ship, but also his personal honor. And so he sides with Spock, whereas Sulu sides with Kirk, and they're actually in the brig together, and he's actually set up a mutiny from inside the brig, and he's set up an alliance with Uhura, which makes a whole lot of sense, because you get the sense in Mirror Mirror that Mirror Uhura and Mirror Sulu have kind of a thing going on, and Sulu was hitting on her really hard in Mirror Mirror when it was actually our Uhura. And so I don't know, I think DeFalco has a really good sense of the first story, and he knows how to make this one feel like an extension of that. What's really cool is, since it's a sequel to Mirror Mirror, and not just kind of its own thing, let's play around in the Mirror Universe, DeFalco does a great job of making this feel like just the next part of this episode from the Mirror people's perspective. For our characters in the regular universe, the story's over, but for them, it's kind of a cliffhanger. It's kind of off in the middle, and I'm not saying that the original series should have necessarily followed this up and shown us more stuff from the Mirror Universe, necessarily. But if you really cared to find out what would happen to them, I think this is a really fair approximation. I think that DeFalco does a really good job of approximating the same style of writing and the same pacing that Bixby had, and of just an original series episode. I really love Bagley's art here. It feels like an original series episode, but also the characters the character models don't seem too cartoony. It's very much really good rendered comic book versions of these characters, and the colors are bright and vibrant, which is what original series was. And one of the things that was really kind of edgy about Mirror Mirror in the 60s, the fact that they went over to this other ship, but they didn't really change the color scheme, and so there was this really creepy juxtaposition between it all looks bright and chipper, but people are assassinating each other to move up in rank and all that kind of thing. I love DeFalco's interpretation of Mirror Spock, and how uses logic to his advantage, and real logic, where he says, I've got to move up even though I don't really want to, and I can use the rules to my advantage, because the Empire in Mirror Mirror feels a little bit like it's just this kind of free-for-all bloodbath, but really they still have a set of rules, and we're told here that you can assassinate people to move up, but you have to have a good reason, and I guess Starfleet would interpret your reason and would punish you if they thought that you didn't actually have a good enough reason for assassinating the next person in line. And so what happens here is Spock gets a communique from Starfleet that says that he needs to kill Captain Kirk for what he did with the Halkins, for not forcing the Halkins to give over their dilithium crystals. And Spock could have done that, but he has his own sense of morality here, and he recognizes that that Mirror Kirk wasn't the same Kirk who made that decision, and so he just puts him in the brig, and then he continues his plans from there. I think it's all really, really fascinating, and I love that it's a character piece. I love that it's from the perspective of Mirror Spock, that he is our protagonist here, and that, again, it's not just playing around in the Mirror Universe. There really is a story here. There really is a protagonist here. Again, I'm going to give this away. It also deals a lot with the Tantalus field, and I love that that's brought in there. We're told here, and I don't remember if this is mentioned in Mirror Mirror or not. I really like this idea if this isn't from Mirror Mirror, but it's been a while since I've seen it. I don't think this piece of information is in there. The idea that, and of course this isn't canon, but it's really good and makes sense. There is this idea that Kirk got the Tantalus field from some scientists on a planet somewhere, like he stole it, and I kind of like that, because Spock's always going, or Kirk rather, is always going up against evil computers, and I like that he goes down to a planet and he finds this piece of technology and he just steals it and uses it for his own. And if you'll recall, if you've seen Mirror Mirror, the Tantalus field is this thing that Kirk's captain's woman, Marlena Moreau, uses to disintegrate Captain Kirk's enemies. We find out here that they're not actually disintegrated, and again, this might be a Mirror Mirror, I forget, that when they disappear, they actually go to an alternate universe. Now, who knows if they actually are able to survive in that alternate universe, because we don't see it. Maybe there's air there, maybe there's a planet there, maybe they're beamed into open space, who knows. But Spock and Marlena Moreau team up, and she actually becomes his captain's woman. And again, he's not really interested in women. He's not really interested in having a physical or sexual relationship with anyone. But in order to secure her loyalty, he has to, and so in order to get an alliance with her, he immediately starts making out with her, and it makes a lot of sense because of the way this universe was, how it was set up in Mirror Mirror. And that gives him access to Kirk's Tantalus field, and he ends up getting Scotty in maybe a shorter amount of time than he would have really been able to do it, but that's very TOS too. Scotty says, it's going to take an hour, and he's like, spare me your hyperbole, and he says, okay, I can do it in 15 or 20 minutes, and he makes this big version of the Tantalus field where he actually starts making Klingon birds of prey disappear, because the Klingons are also after the Halkins, and they want their dilithium crystals, and they're going to go up against the Enterprise to get them, and so Spock has to do something about the Klingons. And I really like the idea that that Spock has to use this giant weapon of force and violence. I mean, he's making people disappear, and we don't know where they're going, in order to eventually try to secure more of a peace for the Empire. Again, he's got to kind of work within the rules of the universe where he lives. This is an absolutely fantastic comic book. I was extremely surprised by it. I found it on accident. I was just surfing this thing a little bit, and I was like, oh wow, somebody wrote a sequel to Mirror Mirror? That can't be any good. Lo and behold, it's really, really good. Like I said, it's paced like an original series episode. The writing it's using the language of that show, and really, if you took this, I'll go this far, if you took this and storyboarded it, you could make quite a good fan film, trying to make something that looks a lot like the original series. Anyway, I highly recommend this. I think it's quite fantastic, and it's one of the best Star Trek comics I think I've ever read. If you have anything you'd like to send me sometime down the road to review on the Comic Book Vault, something you want to donate to the Vault, or something you'd like to let me borrow, feel free to send those things to our P.O. Box, and just make sure to personal message me first and see if I've got it. P.O. Box is Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. I'm going to try to come back tomorrow with more Deadpool. I'm really sorry I haven't finished that up yet. I've got volumes 4 and 5 left to go. I'm inundated with stuff today, which is why I just decided to do a quick vault. And again, tomorrow I'll try really hard to get to Deadpool. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm Captain Logan. Happy reading.